Hi, you're watching part of Corkin Gallery's Artist in Conversation series. My name is Anique Jordan, and I'm here spending some time with artist Christian Butterfield, who's a painter and multidisciplinary artist based out of Toronto.
Hi, Anique. It's nice to talk to you.
So, Christian, I want to talk a little bit about your work and some of the genesis behind you working as a painter. Maybe we can start a little bit with how you became an artist or where your interest in painting in multimedia arts sort of originated.
Well, I've always kind of gravitated towards art, um, and it was always something I was kind of good at. It wasn't something that I had to really try very hard at. But actually, art wasn't the first job I wanted to have. I actually wanted to be a cartoonist,
Mm.
and it kind of developed from there where I realized that getting into animation and doing cartoons wasn't something that I could do totally on my own and have total creative control.
Mm.
So getting more into painting was a little bit more easy for me and allowed me to, I guess, have absolute control. And that's kind of where it stemmed from, mainly just because of my relationship with just cartoons as a kid.
What did you have an opportunity to explore working as a cartoonist?
No, just like as a kid, like I'd always draw somewhat like as a boy, like I generally drew like violent things, like very boyish type of things, like soldiers and guns and all that stuff, and things that would have to do with like the cartoons I'd be watching.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a lot of inspiration from like SpongeBob and
Mm.
Veggie Tales and and things like that. And that
Yeah.
would be like along the lines of the things that I would draw as a kid. And from there, it just kind of developed into something a little bit more, I guess, mature. And I didn't like the idea of working in a group. I,
Yeah.
yeah, so it just kind of like became
Uh,
something where I just wanted to paint.
Yeah, I definitely feel you. I mean, as an artist myself, I'm always sort of looking for spaces where I can fully have control over what the image looks like and the aesthetics behind it. And like for me growing up, my brother was always really interested in cartoons. But I think primarily comic books and the storylines of
Mhm.
the comic books. And I saw a lot of kids growing up, particularly young boys, I would say, who like turned to anime and comic books as their main source of inspiration. I feel like,
As a boy, like things that involved fighting or guns or anything like that was very attractive. So that's
oh
pretty
dear.
much pretty much what I was drawing as a kid.
Yeah.
And I guess that was maybe like good practice, I guess. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, from there, just I don't know, you leave that stage.
But I feel, there's a lot in your earlier pieces that have a strong sense of storytelling, even though they're primary portraits. To me, when I
Mhm.
look at them, I see so many layers of stories behind them. I see there's like a futuristic kind of feel to it. There's a lot that's there. Do you feel like how does the your earlier interest in cartooning and comic books sort of come out in your paintings now?
Um, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, like the first painting that I did was a portrait,
Mhm.
and well, not the first painting I did, but the first painting of the portraits series. The layering that you see like over the head and all that kind of stuff that happened up there was
Mhm.
just me playing around, to be honest. I wasn't expecting to create an image that looked like that, and it just kind of ended up happening when one of my family members walked in and said it looked kind of futuristic. And I didn't do that eye yet. I don't know if you see the painting,
Yeah.
um, and all that stuff. But once they said it looked kind of futuristic, I was like, oh, okay, well then I might as well just go all out. And then I covered one of the eyes
Mhm.
and and just went on from there. But
Mm. I love this work. And, you know, for me, what's really compelling about it is that it sort of disrupts all types of temporalities. Like it doesn't play in a particular time because you have this sort of older Victorian collar around this figure, and the figure looks like it's timeless. And then you have these newspaper clippings that, you know, there's something that's contemporary that's happening there, and then on top of that, you have this layer of this like cyborg and this sort of futuristic um, uh, gestures coming out of this figure's head. So it has this sort of blending of time.
Yeah, well, this was the first painting that I did that involved the collage,
Yeah.
and I thought it kind of worked out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and once I did this painting, I kind of felt like, oh, so this collage thing that I'm doing actually kind of works a little bit, and I might as well just see what I could do
Mm-hmm.
with the collage. Um, Obviously, like my later paintings have more detail when it comes to the collage and more, I
Mm-hmm.
guess, blurbs and little phrases, I guess, inside it. And this was just a little bit more empty and kind of minimal, I guess. But that
Mm-hmm.
was just because I wasn't totally sure if it would even work, to be honest.
Right. So
Um,
you're experimenting here.
but yeah, when you mentioned the Victorian thing, I did take a lot of inspiration from those paintings where there would be like these big kind of ruffles around the neck of the person in the portrait. But I
Mm-hmm.
thought that I couldn't really do those or that type of style of painting because nobody really wears that anymore. So I kind of had to just make it into something that was a bit more like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, not modern, but just like something that you'd actually see someone wearing, I guess. So I just changed it to fur, and
Mm-hmm.
that's just what happened.
And what about the figure? There's such a strong expression here. There's like a really pronounced gaze, the complexion of the skin, the tones, like all those things. Did you take reference from somewhere to develop who this figure would be and how they would, like what they would sort of represent, or?
Kind of. I mean, I actually did the first drawing for
Mhm.
this painting in my grandmother's house because she has like this portrait of like this. I'm not even totally sure if it's a boy or girl, but this black child or something.
Mhm.
I kind of used that as inspiration,
Mhm. Mhm.
and this kind of came out. But yeah, I mean, the gaze, I guess, is I guess looking upwards, and I wanted it to feel like looking into the future or something like that because
Mhm.
once I kind of realized that the collage kind of worked, I was like, oh, okay, so this is something that I might do in the future, and it's something that I think might work out for at least a little bit of, or like
Mhm.
a little bit of time, I guess. But yeah, um, yeah, I guess that's just how it like came about.
Mm. So I want to move on and look at some of the newer pieces that you've recently produced. You've moved away from some of these more figurative, stronger works towards a abstract sort of experiments, but you've maintained the collage. Let me just pull it up here.
Hmm.
So, can you talk a little bit about collaging? I remember when we first spoke, you're saying that your grandfather had a whole bunch of these Time magazines, and like, what was it like for you growing up, seeing all these magazines and then thinking about using that as part of your work?
Hmm. Well, my family is a very, I guess, news-oriented family. Like we have CNN on at all times
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Same.
So we're a pretty political family, and we always have discussions about stuff like that. So we would always get like Time magazine and other things like that. So I just had like I guess a backup of just stacks and stacks of Time, and
Mhm.
I just decided to use that somehow, I guess. But yeah, and I don't know. I kind of like the aesthetic. I kind of like the like kind of how it looked kind of messy and kind of jumbled,
Mhm.
and how you didn't really know where to look, but certain things might catch your eye depending on what what speaks to you, I guess,
Hmm.
or what you gravitate to.
And so how do you select what words you decide to use? Is it mainly like intuition, or do you look for something that speaks?
Usually things that just mean something to me at the time. Like if I see something that makes me laugh or makes me think of something that happened in my life, then I'll put it in. Like
Mhm.
with this painting, the first thing I see every single time is Kanye right in the bottom corner. But
Oh
and
yeah,
feeling obviously,
Kanye.
and yeah, yeah. I don't know. It just made me laugh the picture, so I put it in. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Just like things that are happening at the time, I guess, like also in the news and just within my own life. And that's usually how I pick what I'm going to put in the collage. And
Mhm.
also, if the painting is about someone, then it'll be, um, I guess, my feelings towards that person, or maybe if, hopefully, if I find like a little thing in a magazine where that person said that exact line or these two words to me, then I might include it.
Mm.
Um,
Oh,
so
cool.
like trying to just, yeah, just kind of, I guess, create a create an image that kind of encapsulates the person I'm painting about or just how I'm feeling at the time.
Hmm. Yeah, your work definitely becomes a type of immersive environment, I'd say. And then the painting on top, is that, can you talk to us a little bit about the choices of the shapes and the like if there's something so intentional and like soothing about it, and yet it's chaotic at the same time with the background. Um,
Yeah. Well, with this one, I kind of wanted to challenge myself with this one just because uh, I wanted to see how many faces I could include in an image. So I don't know if you see it, and this will be a testament to if this painting was successful or not.
yeah.
But I don't know if you see like this little empty spot like at the bottom where there's like the head of like a crow or something, and there's like
Okay, yeah.
yeah. So that was supposed to, well, not supposed to be, but like I thought it looked kind of like, yeah, it kind of looked like a mouth, and then there was kind of an eye over here where this other circle is, and then another eye over there. So it kind of looked like a mouth, like really open, and this point going into the circle at the bottom is kind of like a nose. And then I wanted
Oh,
just to try to include as many faces or versions of a face as I could.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, that was mainly like the challenge I gave myself to like how many ways I could kind of make a face in this one painting, and also making it kind of look like a really abstract portrait at the same time.
Right. Do you feel like when you're making works like this, I know you mentioned that you sometimes think about somebody and you look for words that maybe they have said to you or phrases. Do you feel like you're making it for that person who you're thinking about, or like who do you sort of imagine as your main audience or people you really want to speak
Uh,
to what you're doing?
yeah, no, no. I think yeah. I think the first thing I kind of feel like I'm making it for the person.
Mm.
Um, a lot of the time, a lot of the time I don't even imagine these things selling. I usually make paintings assuming that they won't sell and that at some point I could give it to that person.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, usually I want the person that it's about to see it. But in the end, it's mainly about me and just kind of venting. I guess it's mainly just venting. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay, let's take a look at another piece. This one's also this is this one of your newer pieces, or where would you say this is in line with your more
Uh,
abstract?
it's newer, I guess. I did this one in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this was the first painting I did where I was trying to uh, kind of combine what I was doing in the portraits and also what I was doing when I was doing my more abstract work.
Mm-hmm.
So in my more like abstract work, like the cheeks paintings,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really do much detail when it came to a face, or I just wouldn't include it at all. And I thought I was kind of copping out by not
Mm-hmm.
making a face. So I kind of wanted to see if I could do a face using the type of style that I started to do
Right.
in the cheeks paintings. Um, so this was just with that kind of loopy, I guess, kind of like circular, kind of round thing that I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Try to make it, I guess, in a way where it would fit with the cheeks paintings that I was doing earlier.
Mm. You seem to have, I mean, it sounds as though you've sort of more recently really got into painting in a serious way, maybe through COVID and having a little bit more time available for yourself. But I just wonder, a lot of more emerging artists or younger artists have influences that they are drawing from or mentors that really support them in pushing their painting practice. Do you feel like you have people or influences that you look to that are like that?
Um, well, when it comes to me painting more in a serious way, that really just comes down to, uh, I guess, wanting to be somewhat successful in what I do,
Mm,
um, and hopefully one day being able to, I guess, fund the type of life I want to live purely off of painting.
right, yeah,
Um, I guess that's like the main goal.
right.
Um, in terms of people that I look at to inspire me to paint, I guess, a little bit more seriously. Uh, it's not really about me trying to, I guess, kind of be like them, I guess, but um, I guess it would be nice to be mentioned alongside those people at one day, I guess. But yeah, I guess that's just how I feel.
Hmm. So who are some of those influence or
Oh,
inspirations?
well, ever since ever since I was a kid, I really liked Jean-Michel Basquiat just because every kid that kind of likes art and who's black ends up hearing about his name and whatever. But he was a big inspiration just because of how young he was and how serious he took it at the time.
Right, yeah.
Um, George Condo, for sure, is a big inspiration, bigger than Basquiat for sure.
Hmm.
And Henry Rousseau or Henri Rousseau.
Mm.
Um, I really like Cy Twombly. I really like um, what's it called? What's his name? Mark Rothko. He has really nice stuff. Um, but I wouldn't say that like the inspiration I have from other artists kind of it's not like I take something from those artists or anything like that. It's more like I'm just kind of I guess inspired by their story more than their actual work, I guess, if that
Yeah,
makes any sense.
definitely, definitely.
Because
And
like when it comes to like Mark Rothko or any of or like Cy Twombly or anything like that, their work isn't like mine at all.
mhm.
But for some reason I still really gravitate to their work. And yeah, I can't really explain what I learned from them, but I know I'm learning something from looking at their works. But
Mhm.
um,
No,
yeah,
sure. Yeah, sometimes for me, I mean, some of the artists that I'm most drawn towards are, it's not necessarily the work per se that they're doing that like I'm interested in like learning from, but who they are, their work ethic. Sometimes it's just like how their ideas are formed and then translated onto the paper or into the camera or whatever,
yeah,
like,
exactly. And even if those like paintings or pictures aren't anything like your own work, but for some reason they whatever they're doing just has like a big impact.
yeah. So, in thinking about your work and thinking about the connection to your family and the ways in which they have always been interested in the news, and you know, having that in your household, and now you use that in so much of your work. How does your family relate to your work? Do they see some of themselves in what you're
Uh, well, I come from a very liberal family.
doing?
Um, um, they kind of they're not the most artistically minded.
Hmm.
So when they see my work, they're just like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, it's good. But nothing really specific. I mean, uh, I guess I would like to think they enjoy my art. However, I know my mom likes my older work a lot better than my abstract work. She's not the biggest fan of my abstract stuff.
Really? What does she think about your abstract stuff?
I
What do
don't
you
know. She just thinks it's a whole bunch of loopy lines. Yeah, yeah. She likes to see like definite things like faces and
Yeah, no, for sure.
like
I know
that.
those ones. Or
Yeah,
birds, palm trees. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like things like that. Like and my family's like like a pretty religious family, so
okay.
like art and stuff and abstract art isn't something that comes naturally to them. They're very
Mm.
conservative in that aspect when it comes to art. But yeah.
Mm. My family is the same. I mean, when I first started doing photography, my mom was like, get rid of that camera and buy a winter coat.
Yeah, especially when the camera's like $1,000 or something like that.
Exactly. She's, you know, it's about being practical because, you know, your family, it wants you to feel like you're settled, like you can move forward, and they can kind of let go of the child, you know, and know that you're going to grow
Mhm.
and be able to support
Yeah,
yourself, all these things. But
yeah, like I know it all comes from a good place,
exactly,
but
yeah.
you don't always take it like that. But like
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just something you have to deal with, I guess. I think eventually if I ever have a kid, they'll probably think I'm out of the loop and just not with their idea of what they want to do. So
You're going to want to be like a doctor, a lawyer, or something, like kind of
yeah,
go
who
right back
knows?
into the convention.
Yeah, yeah.
um what was I gonna say? Yeah, I mean, I think that as artists, oftentimes it really means carving your own path. Like I said that to you the other day, you know, like the unconventional path is the one that you end up taking as an artist, because many times, even when there's other artists who you look to as inspiration, everyone's direction towards where they're going looks different.
Hmm.
Your ideas of success are going to look different for your medium, what you're doing.
Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, this is a newer piece. And I can see how your work is sort of developing and you're pushing yourself into new directions that's still sort of deepening where you started off with those portraits.
Hmm.
Do you want to talk a little bit about this piece? I know you have, I think this piece is
Well,
the
a
three.
lot of the time when it comes to like just trying to, I guess, challenge myself a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
because I was doing portraits at first, when Corkin Gallery first, or when Jane first came into my studio for the first time, I just had a bunch of portraits on the wall, and I had two paintings that were like half done that were more along the lines of what you see right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to, since I was just doing like kind of heads and shoulder area, I kind of wanted to figure out like how would I do a body in a way where it's not derivative or or boring or copying someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So this was kind of what happened after the first two.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, eventually I'm gonna try to do something like this and also something sort of combined with the kind of abstract kind of portraits that you
Mm-hmm.
just shown before.
Mm.
So
Each one of these paintings is like a study in the direction you're trying to move towards.
yeah, like with this one, it was more like this big kind of, I guess, protrusion or bump
Mhm.
was supposed to be a knee, and then the other one at the bottom left corner was supposed to be another knee,
Mm.
and this on kind of the brown area or like the skin tone area on the bottom left corner was supposed to be a foot. So it's kind of someone lounging backwards,
Mm. Oh, okay.
and the the newspaper part that's closest to the top left corner
Mhm.
was supposed to be like the bottom of a person's chin, and I kind of realized that I was avoiding doing a face, and then that's what inspired me to try to do those other paintings, where it was kind of in this type of style, I guess, but um, more focused on, or more trying to reproduce what I was doing with the portraits, but in this type of style.
Mm. Okay, very cool. So I'm gonna show your most recent painting, this one.
Mhm.
So this one gets really interesting for me when you think about the use of newspaper clippings and Time magazine clippings, particularly in that it marks a certain passing of time, right? And so like this one, when we
Mhm.
spoke, you're saying how most of these clippings came from this year. Is that correct? 2020?
Yeah, yeah. This painting I did while like pretty much at the height of COVID
Mm-hmm.
hysteria, I guess, when everyone was kind of freaking out, and that was all that was in the news, and where everyone was staying home, and my family didn't want me taking the subway or doing anything really, so I was just at home. So this is what I did during that time.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the colors, and especially the colors when it comes to the collage bits
Mm-hmm.
and the shading on the outside, um, since I was stuck at home, and well, not stuck, but I decided to stay at home because of my parents. I would take a lot of walks, and there was that, I don't know if it was a meme or a trend where people would put like rainbow pictures in their front window
Mm-hmm.
that had something to do with COVID, I guess. But so I decided to use the rainbow theme when it came to the shading of
Mm,
pictures, or the collage area.
right.
Um, but
So what was it? What was it like using uh, collaged pieces and newspaper clippings from such a from like this moment, which is such a historically precedent-setting moment? Like, does it? Do you feel as though it further impacts your work in any way, or
I mean, I think it further impacts my work, but in time, if
right?
that makes any sense. So like
Yeah.
right now it's kind of, I guess, recent, so it's not as interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I imagine myself one day maybe looking back at this work years from now and being like, oh, I remember all that COVID stuff.
Right.
And it kind of like adds that nostalgia factor, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
which I was trying, well, not, well, I guess yeah, I was a little bit trying to
Mm-hmm.
capture that, I guess. But it's
Yeah.
not something that happens immediately. Like you need time to kind of go by before that actually starts to come
Mm-hmm.
about. But
And in that sense, something so amazing about your work in that it operates as an archive. So like when,
yeah, and
yeah.
like with a lot of my paintings when it comes to collage, a
Mhm.
lot of, or like a big part of what I like about the collage, not only that I could include words and it's not me like scrolling them down, is
Mhm.
in time they'll brown, like they'll
Mhm.
lose their whiteness and they'll get a little bit more brown and look old.
Mhm.
And I think that adds something because I can't make that happen. Like that's
Right.
just something that time does on its own.
Yeah.
And when I see some of my paintings get a little older and they kind of brown a little bit when it comes to the collage, it kind of reminds me of just like the passing of time and like
Yeah.
that type of feeling.
Yeah, that's amazing. I never even considered that. That's kind of, there's something really special about that because when you think about other archives, they're typically kept in a certain type of way to try to maintain how it's always looked, you know? Whereas
Mhm.
this one, it feels as though the person who either owns it or who has it in their home almost either has to do the work of taking care of it, or becomes like a witness to this passing of time that's unavoidable, and it's embedded in your work. It like grows and
Yeah,
changes.
no, like it's unavoidable. It's gonna end up getting slightly more brown and look like old paper at some point. And that's
Right.
what I like about it. Like it changes over time,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like what happens to everybody. Like we change over time, and I just think that that's a pretty cool thing
Mm-hmm.
that happens.
So one of the things that when we first started speaking and I was looking at your work, that I was so interested in are the backs of your paintings. I'm going to pull up one here. I think these are amazing. And you know,
Yeah, yeah.
when
I
you speak
like
about,
literally, I never imagined myself ever returning to the backs of my paintings. I didn't think that Corkin Gallery would find it interesting at all. That was just mainly for me.
I think anyone would find this interesting. And actually, when I think about your influences, Basquiat for me comes up so strongly right here.
Yeah, that's why I didn't that's why I didn't want it to be like seen. Like I don't want to like since a lot of black artists nowadays really love Basquiat and he's just like the main guy.
Really love
Yeah,
Basquiat.
I don't want to be associated anything with that. Like I kind of want to be my own person.
Yeah,
So
of
that was
course.
like in the background was just like for me, I guess. But
I mean, but that doesn't mean that you're not your own person. People have
no,
their
I know,
ways,
but like,
right?
yeah, it's like one of the first things that comes to mind. Like, oh,
Yeah.
you're writing a whole bunch of little scribbles. That looks like this guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But talk to me about this. Is this start at the back of the canvas? Does it happen as you start painting throughout? Are these,
Yeah, like it happens when I start painting throughout. This is the back of one of the portraits, and the reason I was, I guess, as candid as I was in the background of this painting was because I had absolutely no galleries interested in me or any gallery representation at all. So to me, this was just for me. And
Mhm.
I was just scribbling down whatever came to mind at the time. But during this time, because you see like the rip and the OD and the dust and all that stuff, this was about like around the time that I did this painting, like the other side of the painting. One of my friends died of a drug overdose, and that's kind of what
Oh,
inspired the front and the back, I guess.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's life. Things happen.
Yeah, well, it's difficult to go through. So, but in a sense, though, your friend's memories is held in this painting.
Yeah, yeah. I guess so. And it's I guess it's a good thing that they like this background, I guess, you know.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to show one more. You know, I'm drawn to so many aspects of it. The title, the dates, the like the numbers, the like bits of poetry. There's just so much there. And
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. I titled this one The
yeah.
Hub, but it ended up becoming portrait number 3, I think.
What
Even
is the
though
hub about? What does that mean?
the hub. Well, we haven't seen the front part of the painting or the actual painting, but the
Hmm.
hub was about a very popular website.
Okay. Oh, okay. So, just to sort of tie us up, I just want to ask you. You mentioned Corkin Gallery a few times, and I know that you're being supported by them as an artist. So,
Yeah.
how has that been like transitioning, moving from working on your own, working on your practice, and then now being represented and selling your work? What's that transition been like for you?
Uh, hmm. Well, it's been pretty much night and day, to be honest. When working on my own, uh, especially working on my own at home with my parents' oversight, uh, it's a lot different, I guess, because when you're working at home trying to do all those portraits, you kind of imagine that one day you might hopefully be in a gallery and things end up working out.
Mm-hmm.
And your parents usually have some doubts because, you know, they're parents, I guess. But
Mm-hmm.
once I kind of got into the gallery and they showed some interest in my work,
Mm-hmm.
then things kind of changed a little bit, especially when I sold like 3 or 4 paintings and my parents saw the check and they're like, oh, I
Okay.
guess this, yeah, I guess like you staying in your room painting kind of paid off a little bit. Like at that point, they kind of like left me alone and just
Okay.
we're kind of like, okay, well, I guess he knows what he's doing.
Right.
Um, but the thing about being in Corkin Gallery, which like I didn't really understand at first, or I didn't really think about at first, was the work that they saw when they first saw me wasn't, I guess, what I thought would be my strongest work. It was
Mm-hmm.
just what I had at the time, and I was in the right place at the right time where they came and saw what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was more like I was ecstatic that they decided to take me on because it felt like they didn't want me for the work that I had, but for the work that I was going to do. And that just kind of gave me a sense of, I guess, comfort because uh, I don't know, it's nice to have someone that kind of believes that you're going to do something more
Right.
than what you have right now, even though what you have right now isn't terrible, but it's okay.
Yeah.
So that was a nice feeling for sure. It was very heartwarming for me. Yeah.
Right. And now your work's going to be in Art Toronto coming up, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully. I mean, or like one painting was in Art Toronto last year,
Yeah.
and I I didn't really know that that was going to happen. It was more like me being kind of somewhat curious about myself, and every so often I search up my own name, and that day I searched up my own name in Google, and it said that in Corkin Gallery that like my work would be at Art Toronto, and that's how I found out. And I was like ecstatic. I was like, oh my
Oh,
god,
so cool.
and I was like jumping around in my studio, so happy.
Ah,
And
yes.
and then I went over to the gallery and I was like, you guys are gonna show my work at Art Toronto. And they're like, well, how did you know? We didn't even tell you. And I was like, well, I since I'm vain, I searched myself up, and
Generation.
and yeah, but
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah. So that's what happened.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, big congratulations, Christian. Your work is like skyrocketing from where you've started off. I'm really excited to see where you go. And I hope you get a lot of support through showing at Art Toronto as well.
Yeah. Hopefully everything works out. I hope.
Yeah. I mean, it's great that it's still happening, even though so much is going on right now, COVID and stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that it's not going to be in person this year, but
Hmm.
you know,
But I'm sure people can still do studio visits and they can see your work at Corkin.
yeah.
Right? Right. Okay. Well, it was beautiful talking with you. And I hope to connect in person sometime again once this whole thing subsides.
For sure. It was fun.
Yeah. Okay. Take care.
Yeah, take care.